Hi, I'm Nicole Tallman, Poetry Ambassador for Miami-Dade County and Poetry Interviews Editor for South Florida Poetry Journal. And I have the honor and privilege today of talking to Marie Howe about her new book of new and selected poems published by W. Norton and Company in April of this year. This essential volume draws from each of Marie's previous collections, The Good Thief, What the Living Do, The Kingdom of Ordinary Time, and Magdalene, and contains 20 new poems. Welcome, Marie.
Thank you, Nicole. I'm very happy to be with you.
Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us about your new book. And where are you joining us from today?
I'm joining you from Sarah Lawrence College in my office where I teach. It's a gorgeous, beautiful autumnal day outside, and the leaves are literally golden leaves are falling past my open window.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
So you'll be participating in book fair with your fifth poetry collection. Congratulations on that.
Mhm.
Um, how many times have you been to book fair? I think at least one previous with Denise and Patricia Smith, I think, in like 2017.
100 million years ago. Isn't 2017 feel like so long ago? I mean, everything since 2020 is there's like a wall now between our past and our present. And that was before the wall. Yes. Patricia Smith and Denise Duhamel, what great company. It was wonderful to be there. Yes.
Absolutely. I'm wondering if you'd start by reading from your book so our listeners can get a taste for your new and selected poems.
I'd be happy to, Nicole. This poem is called What the Living Do, and it's from the book called What the Living Do, which centers around the life of my brother John, who lived and then died with the AIDS virus, and was a, a great friend and teacher to me. He was 11 years younger than and he was always wiser. Um, so here it is. It's a letter to John. I wrote it after I gave up trying to write a poem and just decided to write him a letter. What the living do. Johnny, the kitchen sink has been clogged for days. Some utensil probably fell down there. And the Drano won't work, but smells dangerous. And the crusty dishes are piled up, waiting for the plumber I still haven't called. This is the everyday we spoke of. It's winter again. The sky is a deep, headstrong blue, and the sunlight pours through the open living room windows because the heat's on too high in here and I can't turn it off. For weeks now, driving or dropping a bag of groceries in the street, the bag breaking, I've been thinking, this is what the living do. And yesterday, hurrying along those wobbly bricks in the Cambridge sidewalk, spilling my coffee down my wrist and sleeve, I thought it again and again later when buying a hairbrush. This is it. Parking, slamming the car door shut in the cold, what you called that yearning, what you finally gave up. We want the spring to come and the winter to pass. We want whoever to call or not call, a letter, a kiss. We want more and more, and then more of it. But there are moments walking when I catch a glimpse of myself in the window glass, say the window of the corner video store, and I'm gripped by a cherishing so deep for my own blowing hair, chapped face, and unbuttoned coat that I'm speechless. I am living. I remember you.
Beautiful. It's one of my favorites of yours. Thank you so much for choosing that one, Marie.
Thank you, Nicole. Very kind.
So I noticed a pattern of about 10 years between the publication of each of your books, and I'm curious about that choice. Is there a particular reason why 10, a decade between?
I don't write that much, or I write a lot and throw a lot out. Um, I just I just don't. I feel I admire poets who are fluent. I am not fluent. Um, and so there's a way that necessity has to, I mean, I practice, I write with my students often, but I just don't seem to produce enough poems that matter to me to put in a book. Uh, unless about 9 or 10 years have passed. So that's just the way it is for me.
Well, there's a lot that happens in life in 10 years, so maybe there's some wisdom in actually waiting to collect and extract and then put those thoughts into a book so that the book is something different each time too. You know, some writers put out
Yeah,
a book every year and it's, you know, that's beautiful too, but there's something
yeah,
about waiting and the patience of publishing that I find fascinating.
yeah.
How did you arrive at the new poems for your new and selected? It's 20 new poems.
Mhm.
How did you curate and choose those particular 20 for this new book?
Well, again, I mean, Nicole, I write a number of poems, but many of them I don't keep. Um, I I I write and I put them all in a folder and I hope that they'll work out. And then I read them again. I go, nope, this one goes out. This one goes out. This one goes out. This one goes out. It was during the pandemic, of course, when I a group of my friends who are all writers, we met every Friday on a Zoom and we had a writing group, which was just terrific. And so I would bring things to them and read things, and they helped me a lot decide what to keep and what not to keep. But mostly, I've been teaching eco poetry for the past 12 years or so, and so my concerns have changed a great deal. I mean, as they do in anyone as you grow older, to trying to how do I say this? The living world is very, very important to me now, and a relationship with it, um, an I thou relationship with it, to cite Martin Buber. And so a lot of the new poems really have to do with that, but other things too. I mean, it's a real mix of different kinds of poems, some narrative, some lyric, um, some I, some we. I don't know. I don't, it's hard for me to really reflect on that group of new poems because they seem disparate, um, but but they all came out during the last few years, so they must be connected.
So the selected poems, that seems like an exercise. You have 4 decades of poetry here to choose from. Was there any particular editorial technique that you used in selecting which poems you would choose from each book?
I'm laughing because anxiety was a technique. It was just awful. I don't I love writing and I put everything I have into making a poem. The poem, I want to make this very clear. I have nothing to say. The poem has something to say to me. So I have there's a big relationship with trying to listen to a poem, see what it wants to say. And then I'm writing many drafts. So when it's done, and then I read from that book, it's really done. It's in the past. So looking back was um, uncomfortable in many ways. Not that I don't love the life that the poems came from and with all of its sorrows and joys, but that it's just not something I do. I don't review uh, the past in the work. Um, So it was hard. I felt very anxious. I felt very sad, unsettled. And a couple of my friends really helped me because I was tempted to allow to only include about 20 poems, and they were like, no, you got to put this in, you got to put this in, you got to put this in. And that really helped. I can't do anything without my writer friends. I mean, I don't know how I don't think anybody does. Every writer has people who she depends on, completely. So I have those friends too.
You mentioned in the acknowledgement section several poets and artists, some who are unfortunately not with us anymore, like Lucy Brock Broido.
Yeah.
And then you mentioned some poets alive with us,
Mhm.
Sophie Kevin Block, you have Vivi Francis, Ricky Gordon, Michael Klein, Nick Flynn, Don.
Victoria, Raydell, Don
Yeah.
McKinney. They're all in my Mark Conway. They're all in my writing group. We're all old friends. Uh,
Okay.
old friends. So, I've known Sophie since we were in graduate school in 1982. And as you mentioned, Lucy Brock-Reuter was a very close friend for many years, and Tony Hoagland and Richard McCann. Um, all of these people have had a huge influence on me and have helped support me and my work, and just have great readers. Also, my daughter is a great poetry reader. I mean, for me, she doesn't read poetry on her own, but when I read her a new poem, it's very difficult, Nicole, as you may know, to find someone to be really honest with you. Um, and my dead brother John was really good at that. And Tony Hogan was great at that. And Lucy, and Jason Schinder, who's also mentioned there. But my daughter is excellent. I'll read her a poem and she'll say, it's a real poem, but the whole middle is boring. Take out the part from here to there.
Wow, that's severe but honest and
Oh,
necessary.
she's fabulous. She's a surgeon. And I go, from where to where? She goes, from this to this. And it's like a hunk. And I go, take it out. She goes, now read it. And I read it. I'm going, thank you. Right.
Wow. Does she have a writing background or is it just a natural talent?
She's just discerning and she's unafraid to say what. She's also my daughter who would say, you're not wearing that, are you? When I'm about to go out somewhere. Or mom, you look like you're going to a funeral, that kind of thing. So she's fabulous, but she's very, very, very sharp in listening. And that's just listening. She doesn't even see it.
Hmm. That's pretty fascinating.
Mm.
I know that you're the poet in residence at the Cathedral Church of St. John the Divine.
Um,
Can you tell us a little bit about what you do in that role?
well, the most important thing I do is the Poets' Corner in the Cathedral of St. John the Divine, which is the largest cathedral maybe in the country, but certainly in New York. It's vast, just like an old medieval, incredible cathedral. I guess it's not medieval, it's Gothic or something. But anyway, vast. And it has a great history of activism and vitality. It's a vital place for the arts, for the world, for people. And like Westminster Abbey, which has a poet's corner where they put in stones commemorating important writers who nourish the souls of those of us who read them. We have that at the Cathedral Church of St. John the Divine in New York City. And so it had been that every year a new poet was inducted into the Poet's Corner. And a beautiful stone is cut with a line from his or her work. Um, and so in the last years, we've inducted Muriel Rukeyser, the great poet who said, what would happen if one woman told the truth about her life? The world would split open. And we inducted Audre Lorde, who spoke about, the courage to speak, and Dorothy Lansbury. It's just been three, because I began during the COVID pandemic, and we've paused it right now, because we're sort of rethinking about, there's so many great poets there that we're thinking of pausing for a year or two and having events celebrating who's already there. It's a wonderful, wonderful place, wonderful corner of this very large cathedral.
So cool. I'm wondering if you could talk about what you might be working on next.
I don't know, Nicole. I wish you could help me. I really don't know. I mean, last night I was saying, what in the world? And I don't know. I feel again, I, before this, I wrote a book called Magdalene, and many of the poems were in the voice of a woman. I love Mary Magdalene. Most women do. We know who she is. We know that she's been mis. How do I say? There's a lot of misinformation about Mary Magdalene. Let's put it in a contemporary way. She was an extraordinary person who is looking for her own subjectivity and spirituality in a world that didn't really allow women much choice. And so I find her fascinating. And in her, the speaker of that book was trying to integrate the spiritual, the erotic, the domestic, you know, the artistic all together. It seems to me so many women are trying to do, to integrate themselves and within themselves and then in the culture we live in. Um, so that was really a great joy because I could just flood into all these different areas or ask her to flood into all these different areas. And she's very contemporary and she's not contemporary. But now I really don't know. I feel a vast silence and emptiness. I mean, emptiness in that I don't have any ideas, which is probably just as well. Um, so I feel a kind of vast silence. And I've been very busy reading from this book around the world. And after Thanksgiving, a lot of that stops and quiets down. So I'm really looking forward to listening.
Okay. Well, is there anything that I didn't ask you that you would like our readers to know before I ask you to read one more poem for us?
I guess I just want to say to readers, everybody's a little afraid of poetry. I am too. You know, it's easier to watch Netflix than it is to pick up a book of poems, and it's because it's somehow it's going to ask something of us. You know, it's somehow it's difficult, but I do want to say to myself as a reader and to anyone else who's listening, it's always a good idea because at least the poems I love always make me feel more alive, more aware of being alive, grateful to be alive no matter what's happening, and on this planet with everybody else. It is our common human song. It belongs to us all. So please read, and I'll join you.
Beautiful. You can catch Marie at Miami Book Fair as part of a discussion with Denise Duhamel on Saturday, November the 23rd at noon in room 8303. And you can purchase Marie's new and selected poems at Miami's independent bookstore, Books and Books, and online at booksandbooks.com or at the fair. I'm going to close with having Marie read one final poem for us. It's been an honor to speak to you today, Marie. Thank you so much for your generosity, your time, and your beautiful words.
Nicole, it's a pleasure, a real pleasure to be with you too. This is a poem called The Gate. Um, the Gate. I had no idea that the gate I would step through to finally enter this world would be the space my brother's body made. He was a little taller than me, a young man, but grown, himself by then, done at 28, having folded every sheet, rinsed every glass he would ever rinse under the cold and running water. This is what you have been waiting for, he used to say to me. And I would say, what? And he would say, this, holding up my cheese and mustard sandwich. And I would say, what? And he would say, this, sort of looking around.